So it
Okay.
obviously
Do
proves
you?
that they're not optically identical. They're two different things.
Okay. Do you understand that for our understanding of time, right? You cannot have time without movement, without the passage of events. That is literally the definition of what time
Yes, you
is.
can. Yes, you can.
I
say time is just the passing of events. That events over what? So to
I
say
didn't say.
this
I'll tell
event.
you what. I'll tell you.
Let me finish. It's a rhetorical question. To say this event happens before that event, it already assumes a framework of earlier and later. So if time were just the events themselves, you could not distinguish before and after.
Okay, let me tell you what I mean by this, right? The understanding of time of us humans, what we understand of time, how we came about time, is the sun, the movement of the sun. We all understand this, right?
No, I don't take for granted your cosmogonic lore that you're espousing right now.
Research, my friend. Time as we know it is based on the sun and the moon. If you don't know that, I can't help you, bro. Oh, it's the other way around.
No, time is a priori. It's there. It's a passage, right? A passage of events or a series of events that happen. But what's your referent, right? A clock, the sun, a moon. What are you referring to? It doesn't matter. It's already happening. It's going to keep happening. Like I don't get it.
At this rate, we have to stop.
I'm not telling you that's what it is. I'm telling you that's the notion of what the common notion of time is. What I explained to you is how man started the notion of time. It was by the sun.
I see.
That's what I said.
Can you please do us the favor?
This is a free forum, and I'm going to speak as I wish. Okay?
I see. The issue with that is what you're saying implicitly is that time didn't exist until humans observed the sun.
That is correct. My notion and my belief is, and I hope it doesn't trigger you. I think you're interrupting. I think time is man-made. Exactly. You got it, bro.
Okay, so do you think time is the measurement itself?
No, I think time is a man-made thing. There's no such thing as time.
What is the thing that man made?
Would time would continue on even though we weren't measuring it?
What is the
question?
thing
Who
that
knows
man
the
made?
answer to that?
My God.
Okay, so Essie, let's say there was no men on the earth. There's just bears. And they know it's winter time, right? And they go hibernate. Time doesn't exist until man says it's time?
That's right. What is that's a good question. What is time to a bear?
Okay, this is why I'm asking
or
you
a
the
dog
question.
or yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they don't
This is
care.
why I'm asking you the question.
They don't care.
Here you are resisting in clutching to
Hold
this.
on. Essie, you do realize if you agree that the bear knows what time it is to hibernate, it doesn't need man's input to determine that, right? Which means that time isn't created by man.
Can I answer
that
you?
destroys the man-made invention of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I speak?
Speak.
Try not to interrupt me. I know you guys are getting triggered. I know you have a strong opinion. You know what time is. I'm telling you, I don't believe that. And I think it's man-made. Now,
Please don't troll people.
I know you couldn't do it. You know what? Go ahead.
So you start a sentence with, try not to interrupt me. I know you guys are triggered. What you're doing is baiting people to interrupt you. That's trolling. Please don't troll people.
Listen, buddy, don't tell me I'm trolling, okay?
You are being
You guys interrupted me for the last few times. Please try not to get triggered and let me finish my sentence. You think you can do that?
Please don't troll people, SE.
No, he's asking you to quit
You don't
interrupting
tell
him.
me what to
Stop
do, bro. I'm not
interrupting him.
trolling. I'm speaking.
All right, guys. Oh my God,
go on
enough
mute
of
and let me
this.
speak. Close your
Please.
mic, bro.
Go ahead, Essie. I'm waiting.
Thank you. Thank you. So my opinion is that time is man-made. Right now, I don't care if that bothers you, bro. That's my opinion, and I'm gonna say it. All right?
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, but you disagree with your own opinion when you say that bears measure time, SE. So you've already invalidated your own opinion. It doesn't bother people. It doesn't trigger people. What bothers people is when you repeatedly insist that they're triggered, bothered, or mad because that's what trolls do. They
No,
repeatedly
you.
say.
I didn't say
They
people.
repeatedly
You
say.
specifically.
Hang
You're
on,
the
hang
only
on.
one doing this, bro. You.
All
Yeah,
right,
you
hold
sound
on.
kind of triggered. Just let him say what he wants to say.
Shut up, Locksmith. Let me finish speaking.
No,
so
he's
what's
not
wrong
going to
with
control how I speak, bro. I'm going to speak the way I want to speak.
Hold on.
Yeah,
You
but
got
you're
that?
saying that people are
You
bothered.
guys,
What bothers
No,
people
you're
is
bothered. You're the only one
talking about
talking,
bothering?
bro.
dude.
Yeah, just let people speak instead of talking about bothering people. But
Thank you,
what's wrong
Leflane. Let
with
me
the
finish
passage?
speaking then.
What's wrong
Great.
with
So
what's
what
wrong with the
bothers people
passage
is
of
when
events? What's
don't
wrong with the
interrupt me
passage of
to
events?
start
You're
telling me to
wasting
let people
time.
speak.
You're wasting time.
I would like to just finish my
guys, come
statement,
on.
please. So I just want to finish my statement, please. So what bothers people is when you repeatedly insist that they're mad because that dude, just stay on mute, Leflane. Why are people unmuting him? What bothers people is when you repeatedly insist that they're mad. That's what trolls do. That's all I wanted to say.
Listen, buddy,
Wow.
this is the second time you
Oh
accuse
my
me of being a
God.
troll. Shut your mouth when I speak. I'm going to speak any which way I want. Do you understand that?
Yeah, you're
You're
gonna
the
All
only
right.
troll as much
one
as
that
you
it
want.
bothers, okay? Now be quiet. I'm going to explain you what the bears do. Go on mute and close your mouth while I speak.
Dude, you've been dominating the
Jeez.
conversation and disturbing every reply to you.
No, I'm not gonna take anything from this guy. I wasn't being rude. I just
Not just
speaking my
him.
piece. I'm not gonna take anything from this guy.
It's
Beastical.
Not
ridiculous.
only him.
I mean, come on, man.
You've been interrupting
Listen,
everyone. You've been
guys.
repeating the
Gray.
same notion over and over
Hold on.
again.
Hold on. Can I have it? Let me have a whack at it, please. SE, go ahead. I know your opinion. You say that time is man-made. So what say you when you just refuted your own opinion by saying bears know what time it is? You know, they know when it's time to hibernate without the
No,
input
that's
of
when you guys
man.
interrupted me.
Without the
They
input of
know.
man. Go ahead.
They know. Let me say it, man. This
Okay.
that's the point when you interrupted me when I was
No,
about
you're
to
good.
tell
You're
you
good.
how bears do it.
Okay.
You want to know how they do it? It gets cold, right? And the cold triggers them to hibernate. It's very simple. They have to know nothing about time. Was that difficult?
Really quick, if I
Okay.
could. Wait,
It's time to
may I
hibernate.
I've been
speak? I haven't
waiting.
Wait.
gotten
I've
to
been
engage
waiting for
yet.
all this time because he replied to me in the first place. Everyone squeezed me out of my conversation.
Good.
You're good.
Greg,
You're good.
can Izzo respond? I'd like to hear, see what he's got. Just real quick.
Well, it's brief, but I think that Essie's definition that he's working, where he said that man made time via sun measurement. So basically, man used the sun as a referent for time. Technically, man could have used anything as the referent for time. They could have used the moon. They could have used Jupiter. It's just the sun was the easiest option or most efficient or whatever. It was what they chose. Point being, but bears, he says they tell time by when it's cold. Well, okay, but they're still using a referent of something outside of themselves to measure their sense of time. Their sense of time is less than that of a human's. It's less precise. It's not as granular, but they're still referencing something outside of themselves. Humans don't tell time by the cold. They tell time by the sun, but bears tell time by the cold. But that means it's not man-made because it's being told by something that's not a man without respect to men. So how
But they
could
That's
it be
don't
very
tell
similar
the
man-made?
to
time,
what
bro.
I'm saying, right? Because
You're,
my question to
you're
him is
referring.
So, what's interesting to me is that in this conversation, there's this time is not real because you can't tell time other than how you measure it. They're like, if you can't measure it, how would you know how much passed? But it's the same thing people do with quantum mechanics. It's like, where's the electron? I mean, it's not there until you measure it. And people argue against that and say that that's dumb, but then think that this same type of reasoning with time makes sense. I don't get it.
so let's
Chill out, guys. Let's chill out. It's all good. So
Everybody answer the
basically,
poll.
just basically, I don't believe time. I believe time is a man-made thing, right? Now, why I believe that is because I think we age, right? And we have a certain amount of time, but you can look at that like heartbeats, right? You have a certain amount of heartbeats and then you die. Time is not needed, right? And as far as animals go by weather, by instinct. They don't need time. A bear doesn't have a clock. It gets cold, right? And they hibernate like a bee. It gets cold when I think it's minus once it gets below 70 or 68, they get the message, they go, and their body produces their blood produces like an antifreeze, and they go into hibernation. Nothing to do with time. That's it. Simple. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, so if time didn't exist until man made it, when did man make it?
I don't know the answer to that. I guess we can go back to the first sun clock. I believe it was because of the sun. That's how man got the first notion. Now, how far back that goes, I really don't know. Maybe the Sumerians, or I don't know.
Okay, so there was a time when man made it, which presupposes there was a time before when man made it. Toot.
What?
Yeah, so if there was a time when man made time, then there was a time before they made it. They were doing stuff before they made it. What happened before they made it, right? They were doing stuff.
Yeah, so like he's saying if they made time in like 3500 BC, then in 3501 BC, that's still time. That's still a point in time. Still
And
exists.
it's before it. This is really passing, right? So it's passing. You can call it time. The issue with it, SE, right? The issue with it is the way they use time in like relativity, where they treat it like actual physical thing that has properties.
Right.
But passing,
That's a big problem. Yeah.
passing seemingly is a thing, right?
I don't know, bro. I honestly, I haven't heard an argument of what time is up until now. I've been asking for years. Like, maybe you can
Well,
enlighten me.
check this, right? Like, do you think that the universe, quote unquote, had a beginning?
It would have to, yeah. In the way we look at things with entropy, and yeah, it would have to.
So then we have to have kind of that. We have to have passing, right? Like there had to be a beginning and then progression forward from that point. Thus, like kind of what we think of when we say time or passing. It's just not like a physical thing. So
No,
yeah.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying, right? But think about it. If I asked you to define time, would you be able to do it without saying like the passage of events or
No,
this and that?
conceptual quantification of passing.
Yeah, you would have to say it's a passing of events. That's what I was trying to get through with the other dude, Greg, but he's such a, he doesn't like, he can't let you talk. I was going to ask him if your conception of time is the passage of events, then if we freeze something to absolute zero, which is theoretically impossible, we can get close to it. But let's say we do. Does that mean time stops?
No.
But that's using time to define time, because the passage of events, the implicit thing is that there's a sequence. There's a before, during, after the passage of events, during blank. Right?
It's now come full circle. It's now come full circle. This is now what
I think the
Gregory was doing at
original
the beginning.
position you had
Yep.
was
What-
no
the inflation.
motion, right? It was no motion, like an eternal or inertial reference frame of just pure, equilibrium, like no motion, no dynamic. Would time still exist? That was kind of like what it sounded like you were going to originally.
Yeah, but it's the conflation of the measurement of time versus the time itself. Like,
Yeah.
we can't define something by its measurement. Its measurement is how it's described.
Well, okay.
Well,
I'm gonna have to push back here.
it-
So it's like
I mean,
time.
time is just a
go ahead.
convention. It doesn't ultimately exist, dude.
Time,
anyways.
as we refer to it, is the quantification. So it's like what is being quantified. I mean, time itself actually is. I wouldn't call it a measurement, right? But whatever. Like it's the quantification. That's what it is. That's like what we mean when we say it. So it's like the idea of passing, progression. We can say time, like in good faith, sure. But like,
Yeah, but we can use numbers too to say, sorry to interrupt you, but we can say numbers quantification, right? It's not really
that's
a
the issue
description
is
of
that
time.
it's used as a quantification, and even more so, it's used as its own individual thing with physical properties. And so it's like this is a pretty profound question because if there's a beginning, then there has to be a progression or a passing.
Exactly.
But time is quantification, right? Like the way that we use that, and that's just math, and that's abstract. And The quantification method itself is merely, human construct.
Now we're talking. Exactly. It's a human construct. We use it,
But not
it's
the
useful
passing.
for us. We use it to go to work. We get pissed off when we're stuck in traffic, when the pizza's late, but it's a human construct.
The measurement
Yeah,
is not the passage of time.
right.
You're measuring
And they're
what,
just
right?
saying, yeah, and they're saying time, and I'm saying passing, to mean the same thing.
Yeah, you can't use it both ways. So there's the passage itself, and then there's the measurement of the passage. Those are two different things, but they're both called time.
No, it doesn't exist. For me, it's a man-made concept, bro. There's nothing that you
Bro,
can say
see,
that's
check
going to
this.
change my mind. Don't get
Check this.
tricked. Don't get upset. But
See, we agree
yeah,
there's a beginning. We agree there's a beginning to the universe.
that's what we think. Yeah, well, it's a very good assumption that there has to be a beginning, right? Yeah, I
Correct.
agree with you. Yeah.
So then that would necessitate a time before the beginning.
Well, that's another
Or a
thing.
time before
Would it?
humans.
I don't think our brain is equipped enough to handle that, right? That subject. To be honest with you,
Or
like, how do you
even if
know?
we go, because beginning is going to now obviously cause some type of like primary movement. But even if we set that aside for a second, we have beginning and then we have man on earth, right? So whatever time is between those two things existed before man could have ever come up with our quantification method. Right. So this is the same thing as the laws of logic. It's the same thing as objective truth. These things exist outside of material confinement, and they exist independent of our acknowledgement of them.
Now you can make that argument, but it's like saying, where does space expand into, right? You can try
Space
to
is a
make it
totally
that kind
different
of an
animal.
argument, right? Like,
Space
because
is a
there's a
different animal.
beginning, trying to tie that with time, right? Because there's a beginning, because our brain has to conceive of something, right? Like, what do you think the beginning is? Do you think it's like a small thing of nothing and just boom? Because that's all conceptual man-made stuff, right?
Well, you're asking me what I think about the beginning of the universe, and so you're kind of asking me my metaphysical position now, right? And I think God made what we call the universe, but so like that means it at one point wasn't there, and then God
See,
made
there we
it.
go. We're in God territory. That's my whole point, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, we're always going to end up in God territory. Like whether, regardless of what anyone believes, like they end up in God territory if they actually follow the logic out. You always end up in God territory. The atheist physicists end up in God territory. Lawrence Krauss, Stephen Hawking end up in God territory. Like there's no way to avoid the God territory. It's just that the people with the bias against the God territory, they throw their hands up as soon as they, venture off into that territory.
No, I'm not against it. If you tell me time is God, I'll say, okay, man, my hands are up. You know, God made time. Okay, fine. I'm good with that. That's where you're leading.
Well, that's a very profound follow up, right? Which is what is the relationship between the creator and time?
Right.
I know Line has
Yeah.
an opinion on that he's been very convicted about for a few years, but like I would say the creator exists outside of time,
Yeah, but then
and
I would still ask you to define time, though, even though I could grant you that, okay, an intelligent being made a thing called time, right? But then I would ask you to define what it is.
I don't think he made a thing called time. I think that intrinsic within creation, passing exists. Like a progression takes place. Like once you do something, it just moves forward. Like if I create a painting, the painting ages, right? If I leave my, strawberries on the counter, they eventually begin to mold.
Yeah, the second
Like
law. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So built within like the fabric of existence is kind of the second law.
Yeah, there's no turning, there's no going against that, right? That's where the arrow of time comes in, and all these guys and the pseudoscientists, like you said before, take time and make it an object and combine it with space. I mean, we all know that nonsense, right? So yeah, I mean, time is a profound thing. It's like light, you know.
I actually
In
don't know
my
the answer to this. Like, even if I go to the Bible, it's not entirely explained from my understanding. Like, it's a profound mystery, even in the scriptures. Like, you have in the beginning, and there's a dispute as to exactly what that denotes in relation to the being of the creator. And, like, is there a beginning of the creator, or is there like a beginning of the story that we're now going to be brought into?
I think the creator created time so we could experience redemption, but time is a continuous progression of existence, which I think happened before humans were created. Even if you acknowledge that, yeah, the universe had a creating point, then it must have had a continuous progression of existence before humans were created.
Yeah, it would have to, for sure.
It can't be dependent or contingent on like human measurement or perception of it.
Nope.
But what would the progression mean in that case if it isn't changing in its properties in any way?
Or is he super low? Or?
What did you say?
It is changing. It's just there's people aren't there to measure it. It doesn't mean stuff's not happening.
Yeah.
We are talking about the situation before the beginning of the universe.
No, before human. I'm particularly talking about before humans were created, but after the start of the universe. After the beginning happened. In the beginning.
I don't believe.
Scripturally speaking, it seems that there was a progression from in the beginning to the actual creation, right? So even pre quote unquote universe, which we're using, just using that word.
The scientists even acknowledge that there was that time from when the universe created to when humans came about. There was a time between that where things happened.
That's right. Yep.
The progression of existence happened.
Yeah,
So God is independent of time.
But definitely
God is outside of time
before humans existed.
I think God created time that we could experience salvation and redemption, but He actually started the beginning. It says in the beginning. So it seems like He created what we call time for us to experience.
That's interesting.
Progression of existence is good, I think.
Because I think once He creates like a material existence, passing is inevitable. Like, I mean, upon creation, passing is brought into the fold, right? Because it's an act. It's like an act of creation. So then you immediately say, once the act of creation is concluded, you now progress forward with that creation. There's always like a sequence of events or progression.
God is outside of time. I think God is an infinite being. I think that He in the creation, He created time for us to experience and progress.
See, I do start to have an issue
wrong with, but He's an infinite being.
It's like, what is time? Like created time? What it like? I'm happy to be wrong here if someone can articulate some type of position, but like I hesitate to reify time. Like, I think that we have passing and we quantify it. And what are we really talking about? Like, in our human experience, we're talking about movement, right? Like, we quantify movement.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. Finally, somebody gets it.
If there was
continuous progression of existence.
If there was a God, I think Gregory's position is more reasonable, that time pre-existed the universe and that it existed infinitely far into the past, and that God still exists in time. It's just that He existed infinitely long.
But you can't say time infinitely existed, right? That's a paradox.
Why?
It's a paradox.
How?
Where did it begin? If it's going to progress forward, if time is the progression, it has to begin somewhere.
You believe that God infinitely existed, so why time?
Whoa! Now God is time.
I've
shifting the goalposts, the time posts.
How? What shifted?
He said God is time.
So?
But you said God
No.
created time and he's outside of time.
That would be us contradicting one another. That's not shifting the goalpost.
Because if
No, that's
God
shifting the
exists,
time posts.
What?
God
Okay.
existing before time is actually a contradiction, because that means he existed never, because
What?
existence is in time.
You can't
He's
limit
not-
God, man.
He's not bound to the constraints of time as we are in his creation. In his creation, he created it to progressively experience time, or the progressive continuation of existence.
I think there's no dispute that there was a moment that you have the creator, he exists outside of time, and then what we're conceiving of time then begins to exist. The question, of course, is it just like an intrinsic byproduct of creation that there's now a progression, or is it like its own thing? And I don't know. I mean, unless someone else can conceptualize that for me, it being
No,
its
that's a
own
very good.
thing.
That's the crux of the issue right there, bro. What you just said right there. That's the
I don't know
crux
that it
of
is
the
its
issue.
own thing. Yeah, like
I
I
think
think that it's intrinsic within the experience of creation. But I mean, if it's its
Either
own
way, though,
thing, let's describe it. What is it? How is it? Like what
either
exactly
way,
exactly
we
is it?
what
still had
is it?
time though
Yeah.
progress before humans came about. Like time didn't just start with human creation. There was still time existing before the creation of humans in each model.
There's no doubt about it that time, quote unquote, or passing existed before humans. The question is, if the creator exists outside of time, and then there's a moment that time begins to exist, was time created as like its own thing, or is time, i.e., progression, intrinsic intrinsically built within creation? Like once something is created outside, like external to the creator, it now progresses from that point that it was created, i.e., a beginning, or in the beginning, or when time begins, right? Because now something's been created external to the creator, and so now we have progression. Or is it actually its own thing? And I don't think it's its own thing. And I think that for sure it's not its own thing the way it's treated in modern times, as if it's some type of fabric that has physical properties. I just don't see any evidence of that. Like
But
I
in the
don't.
mainstream model,
Well said.
space,
Well said,
time
bro.
does not exist without space. So space and time are together. But if there's anything outside of the universe, then it doesn't experience time in the mainstream model.
Yeah, the
I
mainstream model
noticed-
is retarded. I think like we agree on that, right? Like yeah. I mean, I'll say Henri
Big
Poincaré
time.
says it like this. He says like it is not the universe that imposes space and time on us, but rather it is we who impose space and time on it. And I think that's partially correct. Like the constructs of space and time that we use those things to be able to communicate. Like space is very useful in terms of communication as well. But space is not anything in and of itself. And time is a description of passing. And so, yeah, passing, if we want to say, use that interchangeable with time, that's cool. But it's like, I'm struggling with this idea that it exists independent of creation. I just don't understand how that would be the case, because independent of creation, what is independent of creation other than the creator? Nothing. And the creator is not limited to time, which means time is intrinsically dependent upon creation, which means it's a progression forward from that moment of creation.
It is dependent on creation. It started when creation began.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. So it's not its own thing.
Well, it's its own
Well,
thing just as much as creation's its own thing.
I think it's the foundation, or sorry, the first dimension, not the fourth. I think it's the first.
Dimension?
From Brenner's paper on Kiora about the ether, whether or not the ether was confirmed, he talks about those two symbols, yuga and sva, where time is and where time is not, space and counter space.
I think as long as we acknowledge that it being its own thing is just like the laws of logic are their own thing, or logic is its own thing, they're metaphysical in nature. Like It's not its own physical thing. It doesn't have physical properties.
Yeah.
It's like very important part of it, right? And that's what I mean by its own thing, because like, there seems to be a corporeal nature to creation, and I will say maybe not all of it though, because not only was Earth or the quote unquote physical universe created, but obviously
Yeah.
everyone here may not agree with it. Obviously, but
Well, look what they do, right? The pseudoscientists, the relativists, they take it and they make it a thing. They incorporate it into space, right? Space time. They make it a fabric. They stretch it. They warp it, and it's a basic thing in relativity. I mean, surely
yeah, everyone
nobody. I
here agrees
mean,
with that part.
yeah,
Well, they're trying to manipulate it, right? They're trying to get us to believe that they have the power over time to manipulate it, because essentially to manipulate something like gold and titanium, you have to have power over it. And unfortunately, I don't think mankind has power over time.
Well, they're trying to convince us it's the thing that can have physical properties, so thus can be manipulated. Like logic doesn't have physical properties either. You can't bend logic.
Great point.
You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of my point here. It's like this is the point I'm trying to make, which maybe could have been stated better or whatever. But like, you can't bend it, you can't warp it, you can't do things to it, and it doesn't exist independent of creation. So, and I mean that's just my conception. I'm not claiming to like I'm automatically right. I'm open to being wrong. Obviously, someone wants to explain how.
I'm in agreement with you, except the part that time was around before man. I still think that it's a man-made thing, but I'm fine with the God thing also. So
See,
I'm good
that's
with that.
that's the issue with that statement is you say before man, right? So you're implicitly saying there was a time before man. That's the issue.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not saying there was a time. No, I'm saying I'm not saying you're saying that, bro. What I'm saying is time was invented by man. That's what I'm saying. That doesn't explicitly mean that there was time before man.
I see. Do you
Quite the
see the
opposite.
distinction? Do you see the distinction between the quantification method that was invented by man, and which is actually just a description of the motion of the sky, and the passing itself? Because the passing itself would existed before man invented the quantification method, right?
What do
regardless
you
of
mean
man's
by
input.
passing when you say passing?
There's just always a progression. There's a progression. Like if in like Piezo said it perfect, right? Like in 3500 BC, man invented the quantification method of time that we use. In 3501 BC, right? There was still progression, and then it still progressed up into 3500 BC when the man made the convention of time.
Oh, I get it. You guys think that time was around before. I get it. That's the only contention we have.
Well, I use the word
Progression
before.
and passing had to exist before.
Before it
Is
was
what we're saying.
defined by man. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Or
if it didn't
described
exist before
with
it was
the man.
defined, then everything would have been frozen. And then man would have just spontaneously appeared, and everything would have started at the moment that man defined the passing.
Well,
Well,
frozen. I mean,
wasn't it
you're,
man
yeah.
that defined time as the motion of the sun?
No, we're saying time is passing.
We quantified it with the sun because it was cyclical, thus useful.
Yeah, to
to
reference.
measure
This
against
is
a reference. Yeah.
right. This is what Gregory was talking about in the very beginning about the conflation of the measuring of the thing versus the thing.
Yep.
But you assume there's the thing. Didn't we just go through it that we're not sure there's the thing? That it
But we're
seems to
trying
be
to.
not the
We don't
thing.
have
That
to
it's
assume
just the
it.
passage of the. Didn't we say that?
Passage of
It's the
what?
passage
Yeah,
of
The
passage of
passage of
existence.
events. Didn't we say
Yeah,
from another? Yeah.
That's what we're saying, bro. Passage of events existed before we looked at the sun and said, "Hey, let's use this to count it."
Very claim
Okay.
that you can measure something presupposes that the something exists.
Yeah, but
Right.
passage of events doesn't mean time. Are you saying
Progression
that
of
the passage of
existence.
events is time? Is that your definition? Are you defining it as such?
That was mine.
Because then it's not a thing, right? It's the passage of events. You see like, I don't know, man.
The progression of existence.
Yeah, it's funny because they need to
Continuous progression.
they need to use the definition that would require time to begin to exist when the world
Exactly, bro.
also began to exist in order to
Existence
define your
progressed before
argument.
humans were around, though.
So they contradict their own definition because when discussing with me,
Not
because I believe
contradictory,
that time
but
began to exist, they don't believe that. They use another definition.
Yeah, but do you
Exactly.
remember? Hold on. Do you remember Gregory's definition? He said transcendental series of affairs or state of affairs. He said that deal with past, present, and future. Transcendental.
Yeah, but that's meaningless because
What is that supposed to mean, bro?
people have different
Transcendental.
It
definitions.
means
So
They all apply, though.
it means
They
it
all
doesn't have
happened
to.
before humans came around.
It means it doesn't have to rely on a series of events or a passage of events. It's transcendental that deal with past,
That's a
present, and future.
contradiction. Sorry,
So
go
what?
ahead. Sorry.
What does that contradict?
If you say time is the passage of events, right? How could there not be a transition, like a movement? I don't get that. How can you have?
But there's movement. It's just everything's happening. What do you like when creation was made? At the very instant that it was created, everything is now progressing. There's never a time when it's not progressing. It's always progressing from the moment it exists. Time never stops.
So you're relating the beginning with time. You see, again, you're not defining what time is, like a thing on its own, like what me and Witsit were talking about before. I thought we solved this issue. Now we're back to it again.
You're not happy with any definitions.
Yeah, because none of them define time as a thing. They're all based on the second thing that me and Witsit were talking about.
The reason why you
Well,
can't
even
define
in our
time
modern,
as
you said that time didn't exist until humans started defining it. But even in the modern definitions, it's not a thing. So then, in your worldview, it would have never existed, even now.
yeah, because it's an abstraction. You can't apply a physical properties to an abstraction.
Even
Yeah,
whenever
it's
we
time is
define it
abstract.
now, it's still not a thing. So then, time
Yeah,
never existed.
let's just clarify here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but everyone that's arguing for time here is acknowledging that it's an abstraction and that it's like metaphysical in nature, but that doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
That doesn't equate to non-existence. Like logic, intuition, thoughts, memory, dreams, they exist.
It's even
Right?
more
So you're
real
putting
than
it in that
those.
category.
Yeah, it is in that category because it's like it's abstract, but it's real. Like we like materialists will conflate metaphysical with non-existence or like abstract with non-existence. But that isn't actually true, right? Like just because I can't bottle up the thoughts, because I can't take your thoughts, it's same with spirit, right? Like I can't take your intuition and
Or
bend
love.
it, can't chop it up, I can't throw it to you. But that doesn't mean that your thoughts and intuition don't exist. They
Okay, but
just transcend matter.
okay,
Just
but
like
the
love,
difference,
right?
the,
Sorry.
okay, but the difference between those concepts that aren't material and time, if you don't want to associate time with just events passing, is that those concepts still describe, even though they don't describe the objects themselves, they still describe the physical phenomena the objects experience. Like love is a feeling that happens in the brain and that makes humans want to like have a partner or whatever. It's a reaction in the brain caused by chemicals. It's not an object, but it's something. It's a process that is material. But if you want to separate time completely from the sequence of events, then time literally has no meaning, unlike all of the terms. Those terms don't describe objects, yeah, but they still relate to the physical world.
No, your position is built upon the presupposition that nothing exists outside of the material world. Can you justify that?
I would say there's no evidence of contrary.
What? Like the fact that
Human choice and
So
love
the
are two
lack of
examples.
evidence is a proof now?
That's the argument of silence. That's a fallacy.
and just making that statement was a refutation of your position anyway.
How?
You should have formulated it using logic.
Well, I would say that this is a argument from silence is actually a good type of argument if you don't want to consider it an absolute proof, but rather like a kind of probability argument, like Occam's razor, the same way as you say that the Earth is probably not a globe because no one has ever bothered to present the measurement, and you believe that if it was a globe, then like there's so many people here in the world, there's billions of people, someone would be able to take a measurement. There's always technically a possibility that no one of them bothered to do that, or they all did that wrong, but that probability, according to your worldview, is extremely small. The same way I
No
would say
one
that
makes that argument.
Deflection.
Who makes
how
that
different
argument?
though?
We know we physically measure the surface and it doesn't curve, but like, do you understand the difference in arguing for the impossibility of the contrary and then arguing from silence?
Yeah, I'm arguing from silence right now. I'm not saying that it's impossible for
That's why
metaphysical
your
reasons to
argument is
exist.
fallacious. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
No, it isn't, because I'm not using deduction, I'm using induction.
So then you can't make that
Inductive
worldview.
reasoning isn't solid though. Only deductive reasoning is truly non-fallacious. Inductive reasoning is flawed.
You can
It
induce
is
anything.
more, it is more solid.
Deduction's good.
It is more solid the bigger sample size you have.
What?
The
You can't
more
argue from a paradigm that only materialism is real, and then try to like say that other people's argument is wrong because you can't even prove that one.
And by the way, I don't necessarily want to do this right now, but this is the kind of person that I love the thermodynamics arguments with, because it's like just really just throws the cogdiss in the mix. You can try the transcendental argument with him, but he's just gonna kind of reject it. Void of. I mean, I'm not okay. I don't know you, bro, so maybe you won't. Okay, I'm not, but I'm just saying that's my hunch here.
The problem with the transcendental argument is that it's a non sequitur, is that you just state that God is a requirement for whatever transcendental thing you want to use in your argument, but it's just stating it without actually proving the connection between the two. Like it's
So you understand.
Maybe you should do it.
it's as if I said that flying, like, I don't know, like Russell's teapot is a precondition for the existence of the moon, and I'm just
Okay, let me see
saying
if I can do it in under 5 minutes. Do you you're like a materialist, right? Nothing exists outside the material world, yes or no? Do you believe that?
If I was to choose one of the options, then yes.
Okay. Are you like a naturalist?
Yes.
Okay. And you're like an atheist agnostic?
Agnostic.
Yeah. Okay. So then you agree as a naturalist that kind of what rules your worldview is natural law?
Yes.
Okay. So you're familiar with the first and second law of thermodynamics?
Yeah, that matter cannot be created or destroyed, which which creation ex nihilo violates, by the way, and the law that in an isolated system entropy always increases or tends
Isolated
to.
systems are conceptual and don't exist in nature, and it's just about existence in itself. But before we get there, so we have the first question, right? Which is, so you think that all that there is matter and energy, correct?
I am trying to like only respond yes or no to not complicate it, but I would say that I believe there's strong possibility of that unless like evidence in contrary is presented. But I'm not like completely excluding the possibility of that. I'm just like doing Occam's razor argument that it's most likely probable for it to be the case.
Well, you just said that you were a materialist and a naturalist, so. Okay,
I would say if I find those the most probable explanations.
In your worldview, only matter and energy exists. So
yes,
anyway,
probably.
The question.
Let's just go with that.
Okay, so you're basically saying you're not actually sure about your worldview, but that's okay. So anyway, like the question is, how did all the matter and energy in the universe get here?
I believe they are eternal.
You believe they're eternal. Okay. So okay, so you don't believe in the Big Bang?
The Big Bang claims that it expanded from infinitely small point, not that it was created. So it's actually the position that doesn't violate the first law of thermodynamics, which creation ex nihilo does, because there you have matter and energy not only changing their properties, but like literally appearing out of nothing.
The
Yeah, so you have
singularity
to.
was just a placeholder. It wasn't. They didn't think that thing was floating around in space.
Either way, I mean, you have a singularity like actually exponentially increasing the total amount of matter and energy, but it doesn't matter. So okay, so the question of how to get here, you said it was always here, because if we
That's
look
not
at the
even
first law,
about the singularity. It was never like like it was just a placeholder after what was after creation started. Crazy.
What do you mean? Singularity existed before the Big Bang?
No. The singularity is simply a placeholder after the Big Bang started because they don't know what happened before it. But they're not saying that it was just there.
Singularities before the Big Bang, FYI.
Okay, but if you're saying that they don't know what happened before it, that means my position like isn't necessarily dictated by the Big Bang, but could still be possible because we don't know what happened before it. So
could be possible.
Hey, let me read out the definition, please. The singularity in the Big Bang refers to a hypothetical point at the very beginning of the universe when all matter, energy, and space-time were compressed into an infinitely dense and hot state. So this is a hypothetical point at the very beginning of the universe.
It's before.
It's not even a real like thing. It's just hypothetical, like right there at the beginning.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. So and it was obviously a creationist that proposed that.
It's not proven by this model. Why can't I hold this position?
Or you can hold whatever you want, brother. I'm about to debunk all of it. Okay, so matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. You said, and I asked you how was it?
It's
Dude, what is
just
going
like
on?
it doesn't have a claim about what.
Dude, why are you talking?
Can you not hear me? What the? Okay, because
No,
I'm
you
really
can
trying to
hear
be.
we
I'm
can
trying to
hear
be
you.
patient. Okay, so matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed according to your worldview. I asked you, where did it all come from? You said it was always here. Cool. Second law, entropy will increase. Therefore, the amount of usable energy decreases. So entropy will increase, the usable energy decreases. So the total amount of usable energy in the universe is always decreasing. In order to decrease, it must decrease from a starting point. It must have a point to decrease from. You get that?
That would be the singularity. And
Doesn't matter what you want to call it. Do you acknowledge that in order for the total amount of usable energy to decrease, it has to have a starting point to decrease from?
Yes.
Okay, thus a beginning.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to go back to the first one. It can't be eternal. It can't have always been here. We now have a beginning. So let's revisit the first question. How did all the matter and energy in the universe get here if it can't be created nor destroyed? You first said it was eternal. That's no longer an option because we now know there has to be a beginning according to the second law of thermodynamics. So you're only left with one option.
Why can't the universe have a beginning point from pre-existing singularity of energy? Why wouldn't that be able to be the case?
Why can't it have a beginning point of pre-existence? Beginning of pre-existence?
Why couldn't a pre-existing singularity, which was energy, expand at some point to become the universe?
The singularity is a hypothetical placeholder, not something floating around. Are you like appealing to an infinite regression of singularities?
Doesn't even doesn't
That's not the point,
doesn't matter. And also, don't ask me why can't things happen. I don't know what kind of argument that is, but it's like a pill to possibility is what it is. But what I'm trying to help you understand here, right, is like your worldview was that it's eternal, that the matter and energy has just always been here. That's in the universe, and now we figured out, well, actually, it can't be because it had to have a beginning because it's decreasing. So this amount of usable energy is decreasing. So therefore, there was a beginning, right, for it to decrease from. So it had to be put there to then decrease from because it had to have a beginning. So now we have to violate the first law. The matter and energy has to be created. So now we need something that's not limited to natural law. Do you know what that is by definition?
God.
Supernatural. Yeah, I mean, we haven't got to the God part quite yet, but yeah, it's supernatural, right? Attributed to a force not limited by the laws of nature. And of course, the etymology of supernatural is beyond nature. So we have something supernatural, and we have something obviously external to this physical universe, pre-existent. One may say eternal because kind of our idea, our understanding of the progression of time is within this universe, especially within your naturalistic worldview where you have space time and space and time. But anyway, so we have something supernatural, external, pre-existent, and what is the necessary antecedent of creation?
A creator.
Okay, so if we need matter and energy to be created, right?
Creator.
And so now we have a supernatural creator
But
that
again,
created all of the matter and energy in the universe, which is dictated to you by your own worldview.
but again, why wouldn't singularity that existed always be able to expand into a universe at a given point?
Singularity is hypothetical. Did you know that in your worldview?
No, it isn't. It is dictated
Yes, it is.
by
Look it up.
logic.
It's a
Bevo, could you
placeholder.
repeat that question? Why wouldn't singularity that existed?
Why wouldn't a singularity that existed always be able to expand into the universe at a given point in time?
That's not
Because
that's
the
another
singularity
topic.
in the Big Bang refers to a hypothetical point at the very beginning of the universe.
Well, that's not even within
It
this
would
argument. That's
necessitate a beginning, even if you invoke a singularity.
yeah. This is the issue. You're saying existed always, and we just found out that according to your own laws, right, that govern your own worldview, we need a beginning. So you can't say existed always. That is no longer on the table for you, man.
The
Keep that in
singularity even
mind,
invokes
please.
the beginning.
I think he's glossing over the fact, like when you say you believe in the law of entropy, that eventually, because of the law of entropy, you will reach a place where everything's like at rest, right? Because that's what it's all progressing towards. Which means if you just work backwards, right, everything will end up in a beginning state. So that's why you have to have a beginning, because if it works forwards, it works backwards.
Yeah, I think that's the hiccup here too. I usually go to Stephen Hawking to help me out here. So I'm going to quote Stephen Hawking. You're familiar with that guy, of course, right? He once famously said, "There is no God." And then God said, "There is no Stephen Hawking." You know that guy, right?
Yeah.
He was super articulate, really quick on his feet. All right. So he touches on the subject, and I'm paraphrasing this quote, but he says, like, basically throughout all mankind history, there's been an ongoing debate as to whether or not the universe had a beginning or was it eternal. And only now do we know that that debate is now meaningless because there had to be a beginning now that we understand the second law of thermodynamics. He then goes on to quote Arthur Eddington, who famously said, it's okay if your theories don't always match observations because we increase, we advance with our capabilities and our observations get more and more accurate. And sometimes it turns out that our observations were just wrong initially. But if your theory goes against the second law, it's in great trouble. It won't work. It's destined to oblivion. So he explains, so we know that the universe had a beginning, examining the second law, because the usable energy is decreasing, like I explained to you. And then he used the analogy of human progression. He said, so just as like with human progression, if humans are progressing, they had to progress from a beginning point. They had to have a starting point at which to progress from. The same goes for the usable energy decreasing. It must decrease from a starting point. It cannot infinitely decrease. We cannot reverse it backwards infinitely. It must have a starting point, i.e., a beginning. It is well known and acknowledged within your own paradigm. The universe had a beginning.
They even give you some dates.
Okay.
So you get my point. You can't turn around and say, oh well, this matter and energy existed forever. It's no longer an option for you.
Yeah, I didn't know about the singularity being theoretical.
It's all good, man. But like, this is why some people within your paradigm kind of are trying to figure out how to get back into the eternal space, and they can't because of the second law problem. So they've started talking about. I'm really kind of giving you a life jacket here, I guess, if you want to jump into this absurd water. But they've started discussing multiverse a lot. Doesn't actually help them, but that's what they're trying to do. So again, just to wrap up the conclusion here. I gotta find a way to do this way faster, but you get the point, right? When, like, if we look at the first laws of naturals, we'll say, oh, it could have always been here, so we don't have to violate the first law. We look at the second law, wait, it couldn't have always been here because it had to have a beginning. We go back to our initial question, what is how did all the matter and energy get here, especially if that's all that is, and we find out that it had to be created. Right. So the first law, which says matter and energy cannot be created, has now been violated. And the only way that we can violate that natural law is to invoke something that isn't limited by natural law, which by definition is supernatural. So we need something external, eternal, pre existent, supernatural. So we then again ask the final question, right? Because if the matter and energy is being created, the question is, what is the antecedent to creation? And you answered that. It's a creator. So we need a supernatural creator that created everything that exists. Just say God, man, at that point, right?
Austin, is the second law, that's the entropy law?
Yeah.
So if the universe was eternal, wouldn't entropy have already done its thing? Wait, sorry, someone say something? I just want to ask a question. If the universe were eternal, wouldn't entropy have already, like, happened? Why would there still be usable energy? Because it's eternal.
Because it's not
good
infinite.
question. It's paradoxical. So
Okay.
We would reach the heat death.
It's not infinite. Yeah.
I'm glad that we
Because
pulled you
entropy
out
would
of
have just taken care of it, right?
Would you say, Gavin?
Entropy would have taken, if it was eternal, if it was infinite, entropy would have already run its course. There wouldn't be
Yeah.
usable energy, right?
Yeah, thus it
You're
wouldn't
right.
have been eternal. So
So
I'm
then
glad
it
we pulled you.
presupposes a universe that contradicts the laws of physics.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, then you get supernatural intermediary. And then if it's a closed system, where does the energy come from in the first place? Because you have the first law as well. The first law is the conservation. So if it's closed, right? So I guess that's why they do the multiverse thing.
Yeah, well, they do the multiverse to basically say things such as, well, maybe there are alternative realities where these laws of physics don't apply, where natural law doesn't apply, and then it somehow was able to transfer matter and energy over into this one. That doesn't actually work either, but it's like just them trying to do it. Do anything that they can do. Anything but God is basically the philosophy. But
Yeah.
Imbo, I'm glad we got to pull you out of the depths of despair of materialism, bro.
Yeah. No
Yeah, man,
problem.
you're free. You've been set
I've
free,
got
man.
a lot of good refutations to multiverse if anybody brings that up.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
also
lies
there's
cost more
also
than money.
what?
Oh, I was just gonna say
Go ahead.
lies cost more than money, but go ahead.
I wanted to say that there's also another hypothesis connected with the Big Bang that kind of works like the multiverse, but only with one universe, which is that after some time the expansion of the universe will reverse and it will converge instead because gravity will take over the expansion, like the dark energy, and it will converge into singularity again, and then it will like do a Big Bang again and then again and again. It's like an infinite cycle, but only with one single universe.
Yeah, the only
But
issue is that requires a
entropy.
reversal of the loss of usable energy,
Yeah.
which is not
And
possible.
reversal of time cannot reverse entropy. They've already figured this out with experiments. So how are you going to get your entropy back to zero?
I don't know. I don't know that much about thermodynamics to talk about stuff like that.
That's okay, but I only brought it up to you to show you, bro, that like if you go to kind of the most sophisticated form of naturalism and you take it to its conclusion, it ends up requiring an external supernatural creator.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Cool, man. Thanks for being honest about it, man.
Yeah. Appreciate your time and being with us, Embo.
I will say, hey, yo, Gally, you see my point, right? You see my point.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the eternal singularity. It would have to be an infinitely dense point, and that just sat there forever until it expanded. Because otherwise, the law of entropy, it's an infinity. It does its thing. So, like, this necessitates an intermediary.
And there's no
Of
such
some
thing as
sort.
infinitely dense, right? But I mean, I'm saying you see what my point about the combo we had earlier. We were kind of discussing the different approaches. It's like relative to people, but like I don't know. I mean, maybe someone should try the transcendental one now, so we can see. We can do like a side by side test.
Oh,
And also,
transcendental
whenever,
aside from an internal critique.
and just
Well, I
thinking
think I
about the
talked to Embo about like logic being a presupposition of science before.
No, we already had this discussion today.
Yeah, we already
Beautiful.
went through it. It's just logic, just is, right? It ends up being dogmatic.
But like you said that the singularity would have to sit there forever and then just randomly expand. But I
No,
have
it
a
would have to be
similar.
infinitely dense, is what he said. Like,
Yeah, it would have to, because then the law of entropy couldn't do what it does. Because if
yeah.
it was eternal, over an eternity, over infinite time, you're just losing energy, right? There's no conservation.
yeah, the other major issue with the whole like, oh, well, why couldn't it have just sat there until it started? It's like, well, you're still having to invoke a scenario where the natural law doesn't apply. So now
And you
you're
also
going to
have
make
like a
this like,
causality issue, right? Why would the singularity suddenly expand? Let's say it's infinite, right? Why would it suddenly expand at one point instead of another? Like if it was
also, why
sitting
would it,
there eternally in the fixed state, there's no reason why it would suddenly change.
and why would it expand out flat?
And it can't change unless
not a
something
linear
external
line.
acts upon it. So, once again.
with gravity being one of the weakest forces, right? So imagine
So
the
no
type
matter
of
what, it ends
power
up
you need.
invoking an outside cause. So it
Yeah, just
borrows causality, order, rationality, uniformity from the tag worldview, to make sense of like meaningless, infinite, dense singularity.
And nothingness.
I actually debated an atheist on TikTok once, and I used this argument on him that even if you like go with a singularity that existed forever, it still would have to change its properties at some like given point, as if it was triggered by someone. So it's just like basically a cop out. It still doesn't address the crux of the issue, which is that something happened. It's just changing what happened instead of like the matter being created is now it's changing the state, but this still would require someone to happen. And then he responded with that big crunch theory, which is that's like expanding and shrinking universe all over again and basically doing that for infinity. I think that would be the only answer that's in any way reasonable if materialism was true.
It almost lacks the power. Okay, go.
You got it.
I was thinking that breaks the law of entropy.
Hey, can I get in, guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So yeah, I was listening in. Cool topic. But I wonder why you guys limit. Okay, if we say energy, right, the first law, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So, in its essence, it is infinite. So, okay, right from the bat, the natural world is already sitting with infinite energy. So Witsit had talked about it being finite and decreasing. Does he have any citations for that?
Yeah, so for that, you'd have to say the first and second law contradict each other. Because the second law is that usable energy is always decreasing. So to make the argument you're trying to make, you're saying the first and second law contradict each other.
Okay, do we have any proof that it'll ever go to zero?
It doesn't have to go to zero. It had to start from somewhere. And also, that's
Okay,
just the
but then that
necessary logical implication.
okay, you're inferring or even begging the question that it would have to have started from somewhere because you think there's going to be an end.
No. It's just a logical implication, right? Like our necessity. If it's decreasing, then it has to decrease from a starting point. Again, to quote Stephen Hawking, similar to how if human progression exists, humans must be progressing from a starting point.
Okay, but if it's never going to end, then we can't conclude that the supply is finite. So, but
Okay.
why would we assume that it started from somewhere?
But just think about this logically. The amount of usable energy is decreasing. Okay, so let's reverse the clock. Let's start to go back to where it's decreasing from. Okay, when are we going to stop?
Well, who said that it can't continue to regenerate or make more? Isn't that what we do, right? When we eat other like animals, yeah, we are taking their life force, and we're sort of perhaps like humans don't really understand how to like we don't know the full okay like so we're ignorant like in the presence of like infinite nature, I believe. Um, like yeah,
Okay,
like
this require the
I
second
mean
law be wrong.
on the scale of like where we are, like advancement wise, yeah. Um, I think we really haven't figured out what we're doing here. I mean, you've barely been to Antarctica, right? So this could be an infinite plane, infinite globe, infinite world. We have no idea. So I mean, and appealing to Stephen Hawking when you disagree with like his worldview on the globe, I don't think lends any credence to the universe and its decreasing nature.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't appeal to his authority as if it's true because he said it. I only quoted him because he gave a good analogy. Okay, and also it typically just serves the purpose at the same time to kind of remove the whole like disingenuous response that I'm just saying things due to my creationist bias, right? But it's just an analogy. I just invoked him for the analogy. And he has a quote where he explains the whole argument basically of the second law denoting a beginning or requiring a beginning. Furthermore, bro, infinite doesn't exist. That's just a
Okay.
concept we came up with. Like, do you have any evidence of anything being infinite?
Okay, let me hold that thought, but let me jump back to kind of the point before, right?
Hmm.
So the decreasing nature of the universe, that's still hypothetical, right? There's no like solid proof for that or evidence,
Well,
right?
it's the second law of thermodynamics, which is a natural law that has been observed to happen always, every time, no exceptions. So the total amount of usable energy in the universe has to decrease because it's a natural law. You would have to claim that the second law of thermodynamics is wrong, which again,
Okay,
to
but
actually ironically quote both Arthur Eddington and Stephen Hawking quoting him. Like you can come with a bunch of theories that may look like they're wrong based on observations, and it's no big deal because they could end up being right. But if your theory goes against the second law, it has no chance. And the reason they said that is because we know the second law is legit. It happens always, every single time. So to claim that the universe, there's two, reputations of this. I guess I will jump ahead. Like to claim that the second law doesn't apply to the universe. The first problem is that special pleading, claiming the exception to a universal principle. More so, the major problem with it is that here, all the way from the small scale to the local scale, and as we go bigger, everything comprised of matter and energy do adhere to the second law with no exceptions. And the quote unquote universe is simply comprised of all that matter and energy, right? So it's comprised of the smaller parts, meaning it would have to adhere to the second law of thermodynamics as it does here, because it's simply comprised of what we have here. Therefore, the amount of usable energy in the universe is decreasing.
Right, but there's no proof it'll ever come to an end, so thus it's infinite. So if things are infinite, they couldn't have started from a one point.
You think
They're
it could
never
just
going to end,
infinitely
right?
regress? You know what an infinite regression is?
I do.
It's obviously a fallacy and impossible.
Oh, there's a frog. Sorry.
Why do you think that if it's decreasing, why do you say things like it'll never end? It's decreasing though.
Well, I mean, so like we can't place limits on things, right? Or like bellwethers, like, or point A's and point B's, right? I think it's because our beginning and end of human nature, how we see a lot of things live and die. But we've never seen the earth, start or come to an end. So like the bigger things like that we're aware of, they don't seem to ever stop, right? Like for instance, we don't ever see the sun decreasing in size, even though it's burning, a lot of material, supposedly, right? So things like that. I mean, that could lend to like the infinite nature of this place.
Brother, I'll say it again, but only one more time, man. So the matter and energy that we observe on the Earth all adheres to the second law of thermodynamics without any exception. So in order to make your claim there, you have to claim that the universe doesn't adhere to the second law of thermodynamics.
No,
But
it
that isn't the
does,
case.
dude. But see, I feel like I have to push back because I feel like you're begging the question and with the strong assertion that because there is a decrease in energy, that it had to have come from a starting point, but it could have always been here.
Can you show the circle? If it's begging the question, can you show the circle?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you keep saying it's begging the question. Can you show us the circle?
Well, he has to start at some point, right? He could pick any arbitrary point he wants, but what he's saying is over time it's decreasing, yet he doesn't ever claim that it's ever going to come to an end. He doesn't know that. We've never witnessed that. But the first law contradicts with his second law. So, I mean, I could argue, well, which one comes first, right?
Okay, so this is what you just said. You said over time it's decreasing, yet he doesn't claim it's going to come to an end. He doesn't know that. We've never witnessed that. But the first law contradicts with his second law. Begging the question is also known as circular reasoning. So can you please show us the circle? Dad?
Yeah, he's assuming that because there's a decrease in pressure, that there was a beginning point. So maybe it's not even begging the question. It's just asserting, just because.
Well,
Just
it's a
because
good
he sees
presumption
a
because if you
decrease
look at
in
all the
nature.
other things around us, right, they come to an end. It's
Watch,
a
look, let
strong
me
presumption.
use an analogy here, right? Say for instance I have a pool, right? And I have another pool next to it, let's say, and we're filling it with water, right? And at the rate that it's coming out, let's just say so much time could pass that, you know, it's nearly infinite, right? But I have a faucet, right, that I could control. So I could decrease that, right? Can I? Can I with a faucet, right? With a valve, I can close the valve a little bit, right? Turn it, which would make the, you know, the spout smaller and thus decrease the amount of water going into the tank, right? Or the pool, whatever. Is that possible? So so in the other tank, it's basically infinite, right? Infinite water, and I can still decrease it and increase it.
Okay, yeah,
And
you have
you're
a
sitting there.
supply. You have an external supply.
And there's a finite amount of water on the Earth, no?
It's an example of a tank holding water and another tank supplying it, thus
Okay,
making it at the rate that it's you know, flowing. It would be near infinite past our lifetimes to be able to wait till all the water has come out.
yeah, it
So
doesn't matter about our lifetime. Our lifetimes don't matter. Like, eventually, what's going to happen?
it's an analogy of how things can still be decreased, but yet have a potential infinite supply.
The analogy doesn't work
Now, why is that? I mean, I could still
because
decrease it.
eventually, what's going
There's
to
still a
happen?
decreasing nature.
And then what happens because of that?
Okay, you know what? Instead of that primary pool supplying or the secondary pool, let's use the ocean, because I know and you know we both hold the possibility for an infinite plane or an infinite world, right? I do, because I don't believe NASA and I don't believe that you went to the extent of the Earth. So nobody knows. None of us know for sure because we haven't been there. Only the people that have, you know, if they ever left space and seen it was a ball. Only those guys really know, and none of us do.
Well, we have a few ideas because I think high altitude videos have the horizon potentially lower than eye level, and then maybe the gas pressure issue. There being some sort of containment, and there is video evidence from the 50s, Operation Fishbowl, that seemed to indicate some sort of barrier.
Right. So okay, so you're not arguing for the infinite Earth, but potentially there could be an infinite ocean. So I'll use that supply then. Now we got an infinite water supply. What now? Hello?
Oh, am I supposed to still be doing this? I'm trying to do something, man.
Garbage technology.
Look, brother, infinite doesn't exist within the material world. It's merely conceptual. And for the amount of usable energy to decrease, then it has to have a beginning point to decrease from. The word decrease is literally relative to a beginning point. It's actually a description that is dependent or contingent upon a beginning intrinsically. So the amount of usable energy is decreasing, and so it's decreasing from a beginning point, bro. And like that's just factually how it works. And like even if you just stuck on infinite doesn't exist, infinite is actually a mathematical concept. It doesn't actually exist, right? So, you know, I mean you can just keep repeating that it could be infinite and stuff, but it can't. It's decreasing. It's a measurement that is contingent upon a beginning. Again, similar to human progression. We're progressing from a beginning point if we're progressing. And so if there's a beginning point, you know, that then okay, that means that the matter and energy had to be created,
Right.
which I
Okay.
mean
So
should be
I
obvious anyway.
it's kind of funny that both of us are staunchly opposed to one another and asserting, each other, our own side, basically. But I wanted to talk about, because you had mentioned the last point you made. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the last point?
Yeah, the amount of usable energy is decreasing, therefore it couldn't have always been here, and that requires it to have been created.
Right. So I wanted to go off that word created, right? Because you sometimes pair that with antecedent. And I wanted to bring up that the word antecedent is a contradiction, logical contradiction. So the word in itself, if you break it up, like, you know how you can break up words, right? Like, you can take the prefix, you could take the suffix, you could take the root of the word, because you know how, like, words are constructed, right? Well, it actually contradicts itself, the word itself. So, let me pull up the definition. What did I do with it? Okay,
No,
so
I'm just trying to set some stuff up.
a thing or event that existed before logically precedes another. So antecedent. So,
Do you know what the word means?
Yeah, it's begging the question that something existed before. Like,
No.
Okay. Yeah. Did
No, it's
you not?
basically it's the conditional preface. It's like the word if. If it rains, then the ground will be wet. The antecedent is it rains. If it rains, right? The consequent would be the ground will be wet. This gets into fundamental logic. Not only is it not a logical contradiction, it's like basic logic. Like if P then Q, P is the antecedent, Q is the consequent. So the antecedent is the condition that precedes the outcome or sets it up. So if I'm saying what's the antecedent to creation, it is what is the prerequisite, the necessary requirement prior to. So it's not a contradiction, brother. So what
Well,
do you?
Like
I
the
mean, will you answer
antecedent
it?
to a painting is a painter, right?
Right.
Infinity would answer that question.
Right. You have to invoke a supernatural, non-existent thing.
It's
Great.
not a
That's a match.
supernatural thing. It's totally natural, and it's embedded in all our natural laws. So I don't
It's
see
literally
why
not.
it requires. What are you talking about, dude? Energy cannot be created or destroyed as a natural physical law? You're telling me
It's a
that
natural
ain't
law, yeah.
fucking supernatural in itself, right off the fucking face of it? Come on, dude.
No, it's actually
Let's be real.
it's actually only something you would believe if you rejected the supernatural.
Huh?
It's only
It's
something that
not
one would believe if you
supernatural, dude.
rejected the supernatural.
It's natural in essence before
Correct.
anything else.
Yeah, it's not
So yeah, energy not
supernatural.
being able to be created or destroyed, that's
Uh-huh.
almost supernatural, but it's considered natural
No,
because
it
that's the way
is,
this place works.
Okay, that
brother.
in and of itself is begging the question circular reasoning, because you're assuming the thing you're trying to prove.
You guys are doing the same thing. What are you talking
Okay,
about?
where's the
He's using
circle, Helios?
he's using the second law of thermodynamics to
Where's
do
the
the same
circle?
thing.
No, where's the circle? If anyone is begging the question, where's the circle?
Of
Dude,
his?
today
You're saying
has.
it's
I just want to say
infinite
this
and
real
it
Yeah,
fast.
works
okay,
because it's infinite.
let's
Dude,
follow the
today
circle.
has. I just want to say this real fast. So today has confirmed that I will 100% be constructing and releasing a logic course. 100%.
Thank you.
Where's the circle, Helios? Because you're saying
Let's
infinity explains it, and we know it explains it because infinity is there. And we know infinity explains it And we know, like, you have a circle. Where's the circle on the other side of the debate?
So you asked me about his circle earlier, right? Where does his
Where's
circle
the
begin, right?
circle? Okay, I'm gonna read the definition of a good faith versus bad faith debate for the room so they understand. Embo conducted a good faith debate. That is a discussion where the participants sincerely want to arrive at a conclusion. Their goal is to test arguments, follow evidence, and move toward resolution, even if that means changing or refining their own views. A bad faith debate is a discussion where the participants do not want to arrive at a conclusion. Their goal is to stall, confuse, or preserve their own position regardless of the evidence, avoiding resolution because they're not genuinely seeking truth or agreement. You are bad faith.
Relax. I'm staying quiet because I'm trying to process the information. If you're taking it as bad faith, I apologize. That's not my intention. I'm just staying quiet so I can think of what I'm going to say next. Is there a
Where's the
problem with
circle?
that?
No, it's
Dude,
not. There's
why
no
are you
problem with it.
pressing me, dude?
I do want to say. I want to say,
If
like,
I'm
just so
not
everyone.
answering, I'm thinking about it.
That's
Can you
okay. I want to
wait
say
or
this.
be
Yeah,
patient? It
sure. I'm
seems
gonna say
like
this.
you're the one that's being a little antagonizing here.
You've been
All right,
saying there's a
Maybe you
circle
just
for
get back
20
off
minutes,
and get
Helios.
pissing me off
So
a
you've
little
had
bit.
20 minutes to think about where the circle was, and presumably more time before that. So to say you're now considering where the circle is, why have you been saying for 20 minutes that there's a circle? Where's the circle?
He just said. The
I
truth
never
is, bro,
said
he
that.
doesn't
I
have.
never claimed a circle.
Helios,
Begging
can
You
you
the
help
brought
me?
up
I'm
question
gonna
the
help
is
you out here.
circle,
Helios, I'm gonna help you
and
out
I
here, bro.
disregarded it
Helios,
about.
I'm gonna help you
No,
out.
can I explain myself? Because he's trying to say that I'm arguing in bad faith. I think he's wrong, and you know, I mean, if he wants to bring up the meta and totally steer away from like these talking points that we're having, and me and Witsit were kind of being cool with each other.
What
Witsit's
you're
a
doing
really
is bringing
cool
up the
dude.
meta.
He's
Where's the
being
circle?
very cordial to me. You're the one being pretty combative, dude.
You're doing the thing that you're bitching about.
He's
You're
just trying to
bringing
hold
up
you to
the
your statement.
meta. You're
I don't want
bringing
to
up the
test
meta
this,
while you're
dude.
bitching about it. Where's the circle?
The circle of what? Explain exactly what.
Begging the question.
Gally's
Explain the
Helios
acting like
logic.
begging the question.
Stewie in the Family Guy with the baseball bat. You know, where's the circle, dude? Where's the circle?
Begging the
Okay,
question implies circular reasoning. So he's
let me
asking you
help
to
him out.
explain where
Don't
he
tell
is.
him that.
Bro, let me help him out here. Helios. You just said this is what actually happened, right? Let's just be honest. You said it was circular reasoning, but you don't have a full grasp on exactly what that is. And you were just kind of trying to dismiss my point, or you didn't necessarily understand it or agree with it, but you weren't like properly dissecting it and with full understanding of circular logic and the components necessary for it to be circular and then diagnosing it, right? That's what happened. You were just kind of saying, oh, that sounds circular to me. And that's what occurred. Now, what Gat was doing is he's holding your feet to the fire. He's like, okay, you've said that multiple times. So what is the circle? So I think that the missing step here is like you would need to actually study and learn, right? Take the time to learn what circular reasoning is. What are the necessary components to circular reasoning? You know, and while you're at it, maybe looking at kind of what is logic. Don't worry, I'm gonna make a course for you guys though. It will cost money, but yeah,
Thanks, Witsit.
yeah, man.
I mean, I have a feeling, dude. I mean, I'm still gonna, push back again. I feel like your argument is circular reasoning too, just by basing it off merely
Where's
off
the
the stuff.
circle?
Dude, well, this guy's just uncontrollable, dude.
That was
That
me.
Can you
was
stop him,
Taylor.
bro?
That was Taylor.
Yeah,
just let me finish.
Helios, I know you
He's
feel
doing it
like
again.
these arguments are circular. Thank you for sharing your feelings. I appreciate it.
Are you alright, dude?
To say someone's argument
Where's the
is circular, you have
circle?
to say where it is. The circle.
The guy's cracking me up right now. I don't know why I think this is so funny, dude.
He's hilarious.
Hey,
Where's the
Witsit,
circle?
can you just take your second law, right, and base your belief that time started from a point?
I don't know, where's the circle?
For my argument,
Also, look at the
technically,
question chat.
technically there would be a circle, an infinite circle, and it never stops. That's what infinite could be.
Is that your argument now? That it is a
All right,
circle?
Helios, can you give me an example of a circular reasoning-based argument? Not this one, just any circle.
Not offhand, because I usually don't commit circular reasoning often.
But you know how to
Or maybe
identify
never
them, but you
before.
don't have any examples of them?
Do you have one? Go ahead and give me one, bro. Let's see how good you are.
A circular reason argument?
Sure, let's have it.
Well, if I'm tired, then I'll sleep. I sleep, therefore I was tired.
What's illogical about that? You slept because you were
maybe he
tired.
wasn't tired. He was right. Maybe he wasn't tired, but he had to go to sleep. That's
He
one
just
example.
literally said he was tired. And what do people do when they're tired? That's not circular reasoning.
Okay, so if that's not circular reasoning, you
So
know
you didn't give a
circular-
sufficient one.
Stop.
You're fired.
Bad dog.
Can we
Bad.
get? Look,
No.
I don't really want
I
to talk
have-
to you, dude.
I have a good example,
fucking
guys.
Witsit.
Let's definitely not
Helios.
devolve into everyone talking at the same time. Hey, I got
Helios, I
another
was in the
example
middle
for
of
you.
talking.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
have
Finish.
an example.
Okay,
So,
well, could we
Helios,
wait
I was
till
in the middle of
wait till
talking.
Gally finishes?
Oh, sorry.
So Helios, I was in the middle of talking. You said what I said wasn't circular. So please tell me what is circular.
I'm not talking to this guy.
Okay, so
can
you're
I
a
give an
liar.
example?
I'm not even
Can
gonna
I give an
comment
example?
to this
Like,
guy.
Gally, don't
Right, so
Sorry, man.
don't add fuel to the fire, though. It doesn't matter. I mean, it is what it is.
He's
it
What I've
wasn't a
started to
circular argument, by the way. I was just seeing if he knew what it was. If I'm tired, then I'll sleep is not circular. Circular is I'm trustworthy because I always tell the truth. Why am I trustworthy? I always tell the truth. Why do I always tell the truth? I'm trustworthy.
correct.
I gave him a non-circular argument to see if he could identify it.
Yeah, similar to this, though,
Yeah, I
right? This is
told
the
you it
one that
wasn't,
this is
dude.
the
What are
one
you
that he would
talking
love.
about?
Maybe the Bible's true because it's the Word of God. So we know God exists because the Bible says so.
I just wanted to use that the Bible is true because it says so in the Bible. That's the most classic one.
All right, so Helios has abandoned his claim that there was any circular reasoning via him not knowing what circular reasoning is. So now we can actually talk about the topic because you don't know where the circle is. I know where it is.
I wasn't finished talking to Witsit, but are you finished, man? I mean, I
He
can
said
go
he's
on some
busy.
more, dude.
I started asking where the circle was.
Yeah, I am busy, man. I'm trying to put all this
All right,
stuff
man.
together.
Hey,
I'm at the mic,
we
like
can
just
talk
clarify,
again,
like
dude.
I can usually respond, but I definitely can't like look at the phone real fast repeatedly, and I can't mod, and I can't like actively engage just me. Like when I have to open discussion or something like that. Because I just keep getting distracted, and it's making this stuff take way longer than it should.
No worries, man. Just
I
my
would like
final
to ask
thought,
Witsit
if you don't
because
mind, dude. Like,
Wait
if
up,
I
he
could
said
just
one
give my
final
final
thought.
thought on his
Wait up.
second law of thermodynamics, please.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you were appealing to like science, but yet, you only appeal to them like, half cocked, right? Not full bore, right? Not all the way. So, I mean, if you're gonna pick and choose some of their aspects that they support, but not all, that's cool too. But I mean, the fact that entropy has energy decreasing over time, that's never actually been proven though. Like, it's hypothetical. I wanted to note that. Now, if you can prove it, I mean, I'm all ears. But just because like a smart fucking paraplegic dude said it, don't make it true, bro.
All right. So
That's
just to
all I have to say.
clarify, I make that argument to naturalists within their own worldview, right? Like, I don't believe many components of it. For example, the idea that matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed, I don't believe that. But I'm not a naturalist. I know the supernatural exists, right? So I do acknowledge that the accuracy of the natural laws, so like the second law that you just brought up, for example, it is accurate. When you say it hasn't been proven, it doesn't require proof at this point. It is not like a scientific law where we proposed a cause and then we needed to do science to prove it. This is a natural law, right? It's just it's not even claiming the cause. It's just us writing down what always happens every time, no exceptions, right? Like, what is the cause of entropy? Nobody knows the answer to that question. If I was claiming to know the cause of entropy, I would need to prove that with science. Natural law is just a description of what always occurs, right? So, you know, that's just the way that it is. It's just an acknowledgement of what always occurs. You could easily disprove it by showing an exception to that, but yeah. So that's that, right? Just to clarify again, I bring up this argument because I want to meet an atheist or a naturalist or a reductionist or a materialist, or what people call secularist, right? Like where they are. I want to talk to them from within their own paradigm and show them that even if I yielded their belief, their worldview for a second, with proper examination, even their own worldview and their own models and their own paradigm ends up requiring a supernatural creator. That is the reason I make that argument. It's actually like maximum good faith. Okay, that's
Okay.
why I use it, and I try to explain to
so
some people in here, like some of the transcendental arguments, some of the scriptural arguments, like they're not going to land with some people. You kind of gotta meet them where they are. You gotta step into the materialistic bubble for a second to kind of pull them out of it, right? And
If I could,
that's why I do it.
if I could, Witsit, if I could describe like my position, I'm agnostic. So, and I am open to a creator, just that I haven't seen any proof for it. I know there is the Bible. There are, you know, there is testimony and anecdotal evidence. I'm aware of that. Although, like, um, like science hasn't found any proof for God.
He hasn't left
There's
you any
oh,
evidence?
look. Can I finish my thought, dude? Um, like there's no like physical experiments we could do. Like we can't conjure like demons or like any of the supernatural. We can't even see it. Uh, it's all faith based, right? So based on belief, and not actual like proof or even running it through the laws of logic. I think it would break down too, because you can't even call it true, right? So you couldn't even say A is A because it's never even been properly identified. So it doesn't even have an identity, to be honest. I mean, humans can give things identity without, conceptually, right? Like, same thing that the scientists did with the second law of thermodynamics, saying that it had to have had a beginning. That's based off their paradigm. But we truly don't know the extent of this realm that we live in. We can't limit it. And obviously, like, we're here. So I think, okay, it's either two things with it. Like, since we're here, there is existence. I don't believe it could have came out from nowhere. That's why I believe in the infinity, that it always has been and it always will be. And it's kind of funny that the first law confirms that, because the energy, it's always going to be.
Okay, you said a lot there. I mean, respectfully, almost everything you said was wrong. Like respectfully, um, or I'll say it like this: like I disagree with that. It was wrong, right? Like the first law does support, like it supports a naturalistic claim that it's eternal, meaning that the claim that it's always been here can work within it. But then when you take the second law into account, which was the whole argument, you no longer can claim it was always here, because again, if the amount of usable energy decrease has to decrease from a beginning point, denoting the requirement of a beginning. And now we go back to the first law. We realize that, we can't say it was always
Why a
here. So now
beginning?
we
Explain that. What's it?
wait, wait,
Real
wait, wait,
quick.
wait, wait. I'm trying to remember everything you said. So anyway, that's the last thing you said right there. Okay, but I just want to point out that when you say you're agnostic, and You just haven't seen evidence to convince you that there is a God and that you don't know. Um, a lot of people think that they have no burden of proof when they say that. So they think it's kind of like the intellectually honest position or even the humble position because you're just like, I don't know. I'm admitting I don't know and I don't see evidence for it. But if you actually think about it, claiming that you don't know and aren't convinced there is a creator, it intrinsically makes the claim that this universe could exist without one. Because it needs to be a possibility for you to even claim that you think that that might be the case, right? So it actually does have a burden of proof to be agnostic. You have to establish and substantiate or justify the claim that existence could exist without a creator, right? So you kind of have a burden built within your agnostic, ostensibly indifferent position, and you're going to be very hard pressed to be able to articulate any type of logical justification that this universe could exist without a creator. And obviously, I agree with you that we don't know the true nature of this place in entirety, but that doesn't really matter. Like we actually, and I'll say this last part again, like this, the whole like people just kind of made it up and they don't really understand it. It's what men made up. And no, the second law is us just looking at how the natural world operates. And what we see is that all systems seek equilibrium. Entropy will always increase, the amount of usable energy will always decrease. This happens always, everywhere, in all instances in the natural world that we can observe forever. Therefore,
Real
it's a
quick,
natural
Witsit.
law.
That point, what we could observe, right? Some of us don't even observe that space is real. So if we're going to invoke that they've seen far into the beginnings of the universe, right? And they could see that from there it's expanding yet decreasing, right? If they can claim that and we're going to adhere to that, I mean,
We're not.
I don't
We're
I
not.
don't
We're not. We're not. They're not claiming that they saw that it's decreasing. We just know that it's decreasing because it does that on Earth. And matter and energy is what makes up the universe within the naturalistic paradigm, right? So wherever there's matter and energy, that's how it operates. Meaning you're going to need to step outside the natural world to fix these problems. That's the whole point.
okay,
And you
real
then
quick,
wait. You then said we don't see these things as if to support the claim that they don't exist or couldn't exist. Existence is not dependent upon us seeing it, us touching it, or observing it, nothing like that. Like we have dreams, intuition, thoughts. Like, again, the transcendental argument is all about that, meaning that, like, the laws of logic, for example, they exist independent of our acknowledgement of them. Like, it doesn't matter whether or not you know about them or have seen them or can touch them or came up with a word to describe them. They exist independent of you. An example of that is the law of identity. Something is what it is. Also, the law of non contradiction. Something cannot simultaneously be the opposite of what it is. The door cannot be open and closed at the same time. My shoe cannot be on and off at the same time. The water cannot go north and south at the same time. Like, the law of non contradiction is just a factual aspect of nature, and it doesn't matter what people think about it, and it doesn't matter if people acknowledge it. So the excluded middle, right? Furthermore, for us to even communicate these ideas back and forth right now requires the presupposition of logic because we use the identity. The word has a definition, it means something. And then the law of non contradiction is used because that word cannot simultaneously mean the opposite of that word. And that presupposition is required to even use that word for you to then tell me you think it maybe doesn't exist. And then the excluded middle is a requirement for the sentence to be adhering to that law of logic is a requirement for because either a sentence is coherent or incoherent, intelligible or unintelligible. So we use the three principles of logic in even the most basic forms of verbal communication. So to even try to articulate that you think that the laws of logic don't exist require using and conceding to the laws of logic. And my point is, all of that exists outside the material world, as your dreams, your intuition, your mind. These are things that we don't see, but we know to exist and that they have to exist. And the final point, you kept saying like these things have never been proven, and then you started to basically go into empiricism. And ironically, empiricism defeats itself because it's a philosophical position, yet you cannot empirically prove philosophy, right? It's fundamentally not empirical. Same with naturalism. It's a philosophy, so it fundamentally refutes itself. Things can be proven without empiricism, right? But you can prove things with logic. You can logically prove things. And drum roll, please. One of those things is the existence of a creator. Okay.
So,
Land in the plane.
okay, that's a good point. Thank you for that. But back to what we could observe of the second law decreasing, the energy decreasing. You said we can only see that on Earth. So where do we find that on Earth? But last time I checked, it seems like there's a cycle going on. The world gets replenished. Seems like things keep on living. Doesn't seem like everything's dying. So show me where entropy is
Everything
decreasing.
is dying, bro. What are you talking about? But I'll give you an example. Take a soda, and it's got a certain amount of usable energy in it, right? It's got really high pressure, and that's why it's sealed to keep the soda fresh. So it's got a certain amount of usable energy in that can of Dr. Pepper. I'm going to pop it open, and it's going to go, psh, and it's going to equalize to the lower pressure around the can. The amount of usable energy that was in that soda has now decreased because energy was used in the process of seeking equilibrium to mediate within the lower pressure around it.
Right, I
This happens
understand.
always with everything.
But show me on Earth where it's no longer 14.7 psi anymore. Now it's 14.4. I mean, if you could show it's decreasing.
Did he cut out?
I'm still here.
Okay, but you cut out at the end of your sentence or something? What were you saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. So is it like it's getting less, or it's just the fact that it decreases? Is your point?
Those are the same thing.
Okay, so like in 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, when is it going to be 13 psi at sea level?
Well, they did find this in ice core, if I'm not mistaken, right? Ice core samples, different levels of pressure.
Okay,
That's
but
the point.
14 then?
Your argument presupposes the laws of thermodynamics have issues with them. Can you give us a reason why you take issue with the laws of thermodynamics?
Well, he's the one that said that because it's decreasing and of the observable universe, and then now it's the Earth. So I want to see some proof of where it's decreasing. Now he
So your
explained
initial
how
claim was about the first and second law, right?
interrupt me, please. So I'm going to go ahead and finish like I was. He did go on an example of how entropy works, of higher pressure seeking lower pressure, of a soda can opening a soda can. I get that. But
Just
I also
bloviating and repeating what you already said. Can you please answer the question in good faith?
increasing, or does it mean that the amount of usable energy here on Earth is decreasing, and we're going to find lower pressure, like progressively? So in 100 years, maybe it will be 13.9 or what have you. So if he has any evidence for that, I'm all ears. But I mean, if he
Filibuster.
does,
Sir,
All
the
you're
amount of
doing is
usable
The
energy
laws
is
of
not
filibustering.
synonymous
thermodynamics.
with the amount. Is not synonymous with gas pressure, right? It is
The
the
laws
energy
of
used.
thermodynamics doesn't apply. Doesn't apply to an open system. Earth is not a closed system.
it does apply.
You
It's
can't
just that
compare
you
a
have
soda
to.
can to Earth.
So
Wait,
then
did you
why
just
did
say
he
the
say
second
that?
law of
Different
thermodynamics doesn't apply
opinions
to
on the laws
Earth?
of
thermodynamics. All
No
three of
way.
you, Embo, Helios, and Pastafarian, you all disagree on thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Did you just say the
No,
second
we
law of
don't disagree.
thermodynamics doesn't
It's
apply to
how you
Earth?
use them.
Didn't I
It,
ask?
it,
Said,
I'm
hey
not
man,
going to say anything.
the beginnings of the universe. He said, no, it wasn't that. They observed it here on Earth.
I'm just
So
trying to
I'm
understand, like, what?
his claim, dude, because that's where his basis is for. There's a starting point of the universe because of entropy.
Not because of entropy.
Dude, did someone claim that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth?
I mean, it technically, if you only take the Earth into consideration, then it doesn't, but because it gets energy from the sun mainly. But if you define the system as both the Earth and the sun, then it pretty much applies because the Earth doesn't like get any other significant source of energy.
The total amount of usable energy is decreasing because entropy increases. This applies to the Earth as well.
Well,
Okay, I used a super
not
simple.
really.
I used a super
Not
simple explanation, right, or example of a soda can, but you can use multiple examples. Like you could use a campfire, right? So the wood burns, and then the chemical potential energy in the wood is released as heat, right, and light. So the energy spreads into the air or its surroundings, becoming disordered, quote unquote. I'm not going to get into the whole misnomer about disorder and chaos with the second law. I do not bring this up to get into, very nuanced, complex conversations about the second law where people just spiral because I say that the mainstream consensus isn't completely accurate. But anyway, so the energy spreads into the surrounding area, right? And entropy increases, right? Entropy increases, and then it's turned into ash. Just disperses as ash or smoke and heat.
It can actually locally decrease if you add energy to the system. That's why I said it doesn't apply to the Earth if you don't account for the sun. But if you add the sun to the system, then it applies fairly as a good approximation.
Okay, let's think about the logical implications of what you're saying. Like, okay, the amount of usable energy is decreasing, but you're simultaneously adding more energy to it. So the total amount of usable energy would still be decreasing because that's just decreasing and being replaced, and thus whatever is replacing it is also decreasing.
No, it's if the input of energy would be greater than the decrease, then it would be in total increasing over time.
Not the point. There is still a decrease, and then there's an external addition of energy. Thus, that energy is decreasing from whatever the source is that is adding it to the system. So it is still decreasing overall.
Okay.
Right. You can't pick and choose and say we're going to include the sun, but then we're going to say what's there overall and then exclude the sun. Like that's not how it works.
But that's my point. If you include the sun, then it fairly works as an approximation. If you don't include the sun, then it doesn't work because the sun is the source of energy. So that's my entire point. If you want to define a system, you have to define all of the components of the system that are relevant, that like may have an enough big impact to be detectable, because otherwise these laws just wouldn't apply.
Or you just have to properly acknowledge what's actually happening. And since the sun is interacting with the earth, any claim of a system that excludes the sun would be incorrect.
Yeah, but then you don't have a claim that it applies just to the earth. If you just like only
I
take
never
the
said
earth
just
into
to the
account.
earth. I never said just to the earth. It's just someone jumped in claiming it didn't apply to earth. Was it just asinine? I never said just to the earth. I've never said that. It's just I said it applies to the earth and everything else. And mind you, by the way, I don't believe I live on a tiny speck of dust free falling to a vacuum. I actually earth means land and it was brought up out of water. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Like the place that we inhabit is a system. It interacts with the sun, right? There's an energy exchange, and the total usable energy is decreasing.
That's pretty stupid, but there are other. It's not only the Earth, right? It's just any example where you add energy to the system and you exclude the source of energy from the system you're considering. Then the law wouldn't apply. Even a fridge, it pulls stuff, right? But it needs a constant input of energy in order to do that. So if you don't include the source of energy, then like the law of entropy would just break because things will just be arbitrarily cooling.
Okay, just for the room, because I feel like apparently, like I am gonna just build a course, dude. Like another example of this is like batteries. I'm trying to think of the simplest ideas, right? Like batteries, like put the batteries in the remote or the light or whatever, right? And then the batteries are gonna run down over time. Like the new battery has a certain amount of potential energy, so it's usable, right? And then as it powers the device, whatever it is, it releases that energy as electricity. Right, and then you can get into what is electricity, right? Like motion, and then that's going to create heat. The heat is going to dissipate into the surrounding area, and now it's no longer available to continue to use. So eventually, the battery is going to die, right? And even though some energy remained in the sense that it was like the heat that dispersed and would be quote unquote disordered, it's not in a usable form. So what happened? Entropy increased and the amount of usable energy decreased. Same with melting an ice cube in a warm room. You could set it on a counter, it's gonna start to melt, right? So
But the
like
water changes phases, dude. Like water. I think also water can't be created or destroyed either. It just changes form.
we're talking
Which
about the energy
which
or the entropy.
which is another infinite aspect of this realm. Like you can destroy water.
That isn't the point, though. The point is just we're talking about the entropy, right? So, like, the ice cube is going to absorb the heat from the room sitting on your counter, right? And it's going to start to melt. So you have like a temperature difference between the ice cube and the room, right? And it's going to try to seek equilibrium. So, like, the temperature difference between the ice and the room, that difference is going to decrease until it reaches equilibrium, right? So once it's the same temperature as the surrounding area in the room, now the ability to do work with that difference in heat is lost. So the amount of usable energy went down as entropy increased. Pretty simple concepts.
It also seems like entropy and chaos has been infinite then too, right? So I mean, entropy would lend to there is motion, there is movement, hence uh, it's never going to stop unless it gets cold and there's no more energy. But we already know from the first law, there's always going to be energy.
We don't know that because the total amount of usable energy in the universe is decreasing, which means it has a starting point, which denotes a beginning, which falsifies the first law. If we have to answer the question of how did all the matter and energy in the universe get here, now we have to invoke an external, eternal, pre-existent, supernatural creator that created all of existence.
But there's proof that we haven't even been to the beginning of the universe, so we couldn't
Hey,
even
can I hand a
possibly.
baton to someone else? Anyone else? I love you, man. Much love, bro. We'll talk some other time, bro. I have got to do this other stuff. It's
I
becoming
totally.
circular for me.
We've never witnessed the beginning. We can't even get
That's
that
true.
close.
That's true. We've never witnessed the beginning, bro.
The
That's true.
total energy in the universe is not decreasing. We don't even know the ultimate fate of the universe. Is it going to be ever expanding? We don't know. So that is wrong.
Oh, the argument was really compelling.
There was no evidence to support the notion that the total amount of energy in the universe is decreasing.
Nature of this realm, which he would need, for his paradigm and basically religious beliefs, right?
What's
Of a,
religious? I just critiqued it with critique naturalism with its own belief system. What are you
yeah, but
talking about?
that is your philosophical epistemological belief, dude. Of
No, actually, I'm not. I'm stepping outside of my own belief and critiquing naturalism within the
no,
confinement of naturalism.
somewhere deep down in there, you have to hold steadfast to that. So, you're gonna try and adopt these, mainstream fucking ideals.
Yeah, what do the
Just,
other guys say? What do the other guys jump in and say, you're wrong? What was his argument?
I don't know, man.
What was the other guy that didn't jump in until he thought I stepped away? What was his big nuh-uh argument? Was it literally just nuh-uh?
He's talking something about chaos, I guess, or we don't know the
If it's expanding or
The
something like that?
universe, we don't know the ultimate fate of the universe. We don't know for how long it's going to expand. It is definitely and scientifically proven that the total amount of the energy in the universe isn't decreasing. That is 100%
Your
wrong.
microphone is super muffled, brother. Can you fix that?
And you're incorrect. It isn't definitively proven, so that's just you basically asserting
Yeah, it
it.
is
So
definitively proven. It is.
go ahead and explain to us how it was definitively proven that the amount of usable energy in the universe is not decreasing.
Well,
Because we don't know the ultimate fate of the universe. We don't know how it's going to end. We don't know if it's going to be the big freeze or if it's going to be a proton decay. We can't assume automatically that all the energy is going to waste.
So it was definitively proven, and now it's that we don't know what the universe is doing. Okay, so not definitively proven.
Where do you get the idea that the amount of energy of the universe is decreasing?
From within your own belief system, right? So I'll quote Stephen
It's not a
Hawking
belief.
again. It is. I'll quote Stephen Hawking,
No, it's not.
right?
Are you one of those that believes in scientism and shit?
What? Are you one of the people like? Would you acknowledge that Stephen Hawking has a decent grasp on the mainstream model?
Has the what?
That he had a decent grasp on like the mainstream cosmological model.
He was not an astronomer. He was not into astronomy. He was a physicist.
Okay, so Stephen Hawking was retarded and doesn't understand this conversation we're having, and he should have learned from you.
Yeah, that's a straw man. That's a straw man.
Okay, well that's how you're talking to me. So if he
No,
had
you're
the same
the one
conclusion,
pretending to straw me.
so the logical extrapolation is if my point is so stupid and it's so easily disproven, then the same would apply to someone else who made the argument, such as Stephen Hawking.
Wait, can I just correct the record real quick? Stephen Hawking was an astronomer. He had a book called The Cosmos Explained. So I don't know where you're getting this Stephen Hawking wasn't an astronomer claim. It's ridiculous.
He was a mathematical and theoretical physicist.
He was an
He
astronomer
wrote a
and a
book
theoretical
called The
physicist. Yes.
Cosmos Explained.
Yeah. He was an astronomer, a theoretical physicist, a cosmologist. He's one of the most famous astronomers and
Theoretical
cosmologists ever.
physicist. He's one
Most
of
of
the most
his
famous
research
theoretical
focused on studying the origin and structure of the universe.
He was a professor in astronomy, dude.
Fair enough.
Okay. Okay, so let's go see what he has to say. Okay, here's what he has to say is a lot of people used to debate for a long time whether or not the universe could be eternal or had a beginning, but that debate has come to an end now that we've properly understood the second law of thermodynamics and verified it further with advancements in technology and discovery. And now we know that the universe had to have a beginning, must have had a beginning to be exact verbatim what he said. He then said, I'll now quote or Threadington, which is your theory. It's okay if your theory is wrong or doesn't initially match observation, because we continue to learn new things, and sometimes we discover our observations were initially wrong. But if your theory contradicts the second law of thermodynamics, it is in big trouble. It is not going to work. You must throw it out. And then he says, so knowing that the amount of usable energy is decreasing, it must have had a beginning. This is Hawking. Similar to human progression, because we know that human progression exists, it must have had a starting point to progress from. Now, we're going to apply this to the universe. Entropy increases, the amount of usable energy decreases. Thus, it had to have a starting
I'll be right
point
back.
to decrease from. Okay. Part of me loves this argument just because it's like they can't handle it because they haven't thought out like the thought of the implications within their own worldview. The other part of me hates the argument, like hates doing it, because it's just like, brother. Like, look, to be fair, so if anyone was here earlier, you would notice that like when someone makes the arguments like Fundy does, where he isn't a naturalist, he doesn't adhere to some of these assumptions, right? Or like that nothing exists outside of the natural, or has no issue invoking the supernatural, right? And saying that maybe the mechanism is supernatural, like not limited to the laws of nature. Then I say, okay, fair enough. And then I'll tell him, like, I don't see really how that would be theoretically possible. You're still violating entropy here, right? And so you whatever. But if people are pretending that they know, or that that there's nothing outside the natural world or the material world, and that the natural world governs all, right? Their natural law governs all. Well, then they have an issue. So. All right, I really want to tap someone else in because I can listen, but I need to set up my mic and stuff.
I don't know if there's any materialists or empiricists left.